Hey guys, so the first thing we're going to need to start this awesome DIY is our materials. So first I have these 2 jars that I got from the dollar store, so literally $2 for both of these. And then we're going to need an oven-safe measuring cup. This is what we're going to melt our wax in. And then we're going to need 2 unscented candles since we're making 2 candles, and I recommend a pretty good size. And then you need fragrance oils, or like I have here, an air freshener. I do recommend using the fragrance oils though if you're going to make candles, unlike I did. And then I have some banana nut bread wax melts, and that's going to be for color and fragrance. And then I have wicks, which are obviously needed. And then first we're just going to start off by cutting our candle, and I recommend cutting it into as small of pieces as possible so that it'll melt a lot faster. And then I just have my pot of water ready to boil, and we're going to go ahead and place all the cut up wax pieces in here, and this is what we needed the oven safe measuring cup for. So this is just how we're going to melt the wax, and it takes a while, so be patient. And like I said, the smaller the pieces, the faster it'll melt. But meanwhile, I am going to take my glue gun and one of the wicks, and I'm going to start gluing the bottom of it just to stick it in the jar so that we have something to do to keep us occupied while we're waiting for the wax to melt. So as you can see here, I just put some glue on, and then I'm going to stick it on the bottom of the jar. And then to help that stick, I'm using a plastic butter knife. I know you can't really see because the camera's focusing on my arm, but I'm just using that to press down on the wick because my hand wouldn't really fit in the jar because of the shape. I don't have big hands, I promise. And then I'm using that butter knife to wrap the wick around because we want the wick to stand up straight when we pour our wax in, because, you know, who wants a crooked wick? I don't. I just want it to be straight and look nice, so hence the butter knife. And then I'm going to take my little air freshener fragrance oil thing, and I'm literally just going to pop off the lid just like so. It was so easy, I was scared I was going to have to like cut it off with the jaws of life or something, but it actually worked out pretty well. And I poured that into the melted wax, and I actually, for the color of the wax, I used some wax from another candle, just a little bit, and because the crayon method didn't really work for me if you've seen other DIY candles. So yeah, I just used some wax from another candle that had a very faint smell. You can also use food coloring if you want, but I didn't have any. And so for the next candle, I'm just pouring in those banana nut bread wax melts and stirring those in. And be sure to stir them in when the wax is kind of melted because you want them to melt evenly. And then this is the result from that one, so I'm just pouring that wax in there like so. Yes, so exciting, we're nearing the end. And then I just pop these suckers, whatever you want to call them, in the freezer for about an hour, and then I took them out and then I left them overnight just to really settle, and now I'm cutting off the wicks. And as you can see, they're not as pigmented as I would have hoped, but I still think they came out really pretty. So just remember, the more coloring you add, the more pigmented your candle's going to be because they do dry lighter than when they're melted. So yeah, I'm just cutting off the wicks and we are finished, you guys. This was so easy, and I hope you guys got some good tips from this, and I hope you could try it yourself. If you do, hashtag CoolDez123 on Instagram, and then I'll be able to find your photos and see what you guys did. Oh, and for some added prettiness, I hot glue gunned some ribbon around the jars that I found at the dollar store as well. So yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed, and thank you so much for taking time out to watch this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!